fish heads, which we see in Asian diets, and the Gaelic diet. Extremely high in vitamin A in the fish heads. Shellfish, rich sources of vitamin D, same with oily fish, and the sea mammals, like the seals and the whales and so forth that they ate. And land animals, insects, which are not part of our diet, butter and cream, egg yolks, liver and organ meats, and animal fats, if these animals are outside eating green grass in the sunlight. If the animals are in the sunlight, these foods will be a good source of vitamin D. If they're eating green grass, they'll be a good source of vitamin A. Now, what do you notice about these lists of foods? These are all the high-fat, high-cholesterol foods that we're being told not to eat. These are the demonized foods. People are afraid of these foods. Oh, we can't eat butter and cream. It's full of saturated fats, and egg yolks loaded with cholesterol. Oh, if you eat liver, you're going to poison yourself with vitamin A. And the organ meats loaded with cholesterol. And whatever you do, don't eat any animal fat. Use the vegetable oils instead. And the latest victim of this smear campaign is the seafoods, which are considered now dangerous because of their mercury content. And I'm going to come back to this subject of mercury. We actually, in traditional diets, have some very strong protection against mercury. And there's always been mercury in seafood, mercury in the oceans. So basically what I'm saying is the basis of a healthy diet is including as many of these products as possible in your diet. Some you may not like, some may be unavailable. Nevertheless, to include as many as possible. So that's a very different message than the one you're hearing everywhere else. Dr. Price referred to the fat-soluble vitamins as fat-soluble activators because they are the catalysts for using minerals in the food. He said it is possible to starve for minerals that are abundant in the foods eaten because they cannot be utilized without an adequate quantity of the fat-soluble activators. So you can be eating organic food and mineral drinks and a lot of emphasis on high mineral foods. But unless you have these fat-soluble activators, these minerals are going to waste. If you think of the body as a house or a temple, the bricks are the minerals and the mortar is the fat-soluble activators, A and D. And you need both of them for a strong body. Now, there are a lot of myths out there about vitamins A and D. And the first myth is that vitamin A is found in leafy green vegetables and yellow and orange fruits. And I have a special corner of hell in my library for all of the books that say vitamin A is very important, eat your leafy green vegetables. What's in these plant foods is not vitamin A, it is the precursors called carotenes. And if you go to a biochemistry textbook or the Merck manual, you will read there's no vitamin A in plant foods. It's not the true vitamin A, it's the precursors. This is beta-carotene. It is the most active of these precursors. And what happens in the intestinal tract of animals, and a little bit in humans, we can do this to a certain extent, is that it is split here, and oxygen is added, and you get the true vitamin A. This is the true vitamin A. It's a very difficult process because of this addition of oxygen. It requires a lot of enzymes to take place. And it takes, even in people who can do this, it takes anywhere from 12 to 48 of these molecules to produce one molecule of vitamin A. There was a recent study from England that showed that 47% of all women are completely unable to make this conversion. So a lot of people actually can't do it. In order to make this conversion, you first of all need fats in the diet because the conversion takes place in the presence of bile. And you don't secrete bile unless you eat fats. So there is a reason that we put cream in our soup or butter on our carrots. Because you need that fat to actually use those carotenes, to make vitamin A of those carotenes. Plus, the foods taste so much better with the cream or butter. So there's, our taste buds are telling us something. A lot of enzymes are involved. Thyroid hormone is involved, and so is vitamin E. Now, one thing we do know is that babies and children cannot make this conversion. They cannot store vitamin A very well. They just don't have everything online to do this. And this is why babies need to start out on animal foods, rich in vitamin A. It's why children don't like vegetables very much. I have mothers calling me so worried, oh, my baby doesn't like vegetables. Well, don't worry about it. Babies can't do a lot with vegetables. And they need more vitamin A than adults do because they're growing and because they can't make it. The other large group that has this problem is diabetics. They very often lack enzymes to convert carotenes into vitamin A. And when you think about the problems that diabetics have, such as healing, retina problems, and kidney problems, these are all problems of vitamin A deficiency. And I'm not saying that vitamin A can cure diabetes, but vitamin A can support the diabetic and prevent all of these terrible side effects that they sometimes have. Are we okay in the back? No? We're trying to get AV to make it louder. I do apologize. If you have poor thyroid function, poor liver function, leaky gut, a lot of additives in your diet, you can't make this conversion. Pesticides and toxins. The reason pesticides are toxic is because they interfere with vitamin A pathways. That's why they're toxic. And so if, I know none of you use pesticides, but let's say you live next to a farm that used pesticides, you live in an apartment building where they've sprayed, or you have to work in a hairdresser, a print shop, a cleaner's, you're exposed to chemicals all day long. You need more vitamin A, because the way those chemicals harm you is through these vitamin A pathways. And just eating a lot of carotene, a lot of leafy greens, a lot of carrots, that shuts down this whole conversion mechanism. So even under optimal conditions, plant sources of carotenes cannot supply sufficient vitamin A for optimal health. And vitamin A is critical. It is needed for mineral metabolism, as we said. You need it to absorb calcium. You also need vitamin A to use protein. What happens when we eat lean meat or consume skim milk or eat egg whites without the yolks or take a protein powder? The body says, protein. I need vitamin A to use this protein, and it goes to the liver to get the vitamin A. And the quickest way to deplete your body of vitamin A is to eat a high-protein, low-fat diet, which is what's being promoted these days. And I can't tell you how many people we've talked to who've gotten in trouble using protein powders. Burnout, autoimmune disease, even running into cancer. Vitamin A is critical for proper growth and the prevention of birth defects. Now, the latest area of scientific research is stem cell research. And it's a fascinating area of research. Stem cells are undifferentiated cells. And the fetus starts out as stem cells, and then it gets a signal to form a heart cell or a lung cell or a liver cell. These organs don't replenish themselves by dividing. They get new cells from stem cells, both in the growing child and in the adult. Adults have stem cells all over their bodies. What is it that tells the stem cell to become a heart cell or a liver cell or a lung cell? It's vitamin A. Vitamin A is the concert master of the growing fetus, and it's what keeps us cancer-free and allows the right kind of cell division in the body. So this is why you need to build up your vitamin A stores before you get pregnant, because the heart's the first organ to form. By the time you know you're pregnant, that heart has already formed. And if you didn't have enough vitamin A to form the heart properly, you may have a miscarriage, or you may have a baby with a problem in the heart, which is becoming very, very common these days. The entire endocrine system is dependent on vitamin A. The thyroid gland, you need vitamin A to make thyroid hormones. You need vitamin A to make immune hormones, T cells. All the stress hormones and sex hormones require vitamin A. Vitamin A is needed for brain function planning, and task completion. The ability to start a task, a project, and complete it is dependent on vitamin A. Isn't that interesting? And vitamin A is needed for healthy eyes, skin, and bones. We think of bones, vitamin D for bones, but you need vitamin A for healthy bones. This is a chart showing all of the hormones made out of cholesterol. If I stand here, is that louder? It's okay now? All of the, yeah, that is louder. All of the sex hormones are made out of cholesterol, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. And then over here we have the adrenal cortex hormones, which regulate blood sugar, blood pressure, mineral metabolism. They help us deal with stress. They help us heal, help with inflammation. They're all made of cholesterol, and they all require vitamin A. Every arrow here is an enzymatic conversion that requires vitamin A. We have had dramatic cures of people who have hormonal problems, very long and debilitating menstrual periods, endometriosis, fibroid tumors, by getting them on very high doses of cod liver oil. So the body can actually has the signals that it needs to make these hormones. Same with stress, same with healing, and vitamin A is really critical. The trans fats, which we'll talk about this afternoon, inhibit all of these conversions. So by going from animal fats that have vitamin A in them to the trans fats, we've created this sort of double jeopardy. And no wonder everyone needs prednisone today to heal, because that's the artificial cortisol that the bodies can't make anymore. This was an interesting study done in Texas in the 1940s. They took normal pigs, mated them, and when the sows were pregnant, they removed vitamin A from the diet, and all the piglets were born blind with a petrified optic nerve. They took the blind piglets and mated them. A few of the sows were able to get pregnant. They returned vitamin A to the diet of the pregnant sows, and then all the babies were born with normal sight, even though the mothers were blind, or the parents were blind. So here is something we consider a genetic defect, being born blind, that's turned on and off with vitamin A. Now, vitamin A stores are rapidly depleted by stress. Now, nobody here is ever under any stress, though, right? We don't have to worry about that one. When you have good vitamin A stores, stress is actually exhilarating. You'd be bored without stress. But if you are lacking in vitamin A, every little thing is stressful, because you can't make stress hormones when you're lacking vitamin A. This is why people who go through very stressful situations like the death of a loved one or a divorce or a financial hardship tend to have more tendency to diseases like cancer and heart disease, because the stress depletes them of vitamin A. Too much protein, we talked about that. Cold weather is very depleting. In Scandinavia, they kept the little box outside the door with the cod liver oil in it, and they took the cod liver oil when they went outside in the cold. Fever and illness, very depleting of vitamin A. And it's very important for children to have fevers. One of the theories about why we have so much cancer today is we're not allowing children to have fevers. Fevers really kickstart the immune system. They're very important. But when a child has a fever, you want to make sure you give them some egg yolks, some cod liver oil, a little liver pate or something, so they keep their vitamin A stores high, so the fever doesn't deplete them, because if you get too depleted in a fever, you may end up blind or with a seizure. Physical exertion depletes vitamin A, and exposure to toxins, so pesticides, chemicals, these are very depleting of vitamin A. That's why they're toxic. We have numerous papers showing that vitamin A protects against dioxins. And this is why cod liver oil is so important if you are being exposed to these kinds of chemicals. Fish eaters in Japan, there's a lot of dioxins in commercial fish, do not have high levels of dioxins in the blood, meaning that there must be protective factors in their diet, and that's almost certainly vitamin A. But the key